And all of a sudden I went from 80 hours a week and loving it, workaholic entrepreneur, to 10 hours a week, maybe talking to my employees, and every other waking moment spent in that hospital. I cannot make a business succeed if it is completely dependent on me and my time.
So how have you kept your passion going all this time?
I mean, I've turned my hobby into a career. You go on a journey for a reason. I wouldn't have understood these lessons back in the aughts. The realization, the great majority of the populace trades their time for money. Break out of that equation.
If you had to pick between happiness and success, which would you pick?
A lot of my happiness is derived from success. A lot of my happiness is derived from my kids and my wife. So yeah, happiness. Yeah, if I got to choose one.
Welcome back to 101 Ways Out. I'm your host, Vanessa Juby, and today I'm sitting down with Brian Best, who is the founder and operator of Best Max. He leads a small team that helps support networking infrastructure and IT services here in Kansas City and the region. He's got a really neat story about starting out and trying to follow his dad's advice in corporate and then forging his own path. And obviously, as we all know, nothing is a straight line, but he is doing incredibly well now. And if you have any interest at all in doing something like this, I think you're going to have some amazing takeaways from Brian's story. Thank you so much for joining me.
Brian, you tell us about where you are in your life right now and kind of what your day-to-day looks like.
Oh boy, I'm turning 50 this year. I've been running, joy, right? Half a century, woo, and feeling it a little bit, but no, it's good. And I've been my own boss now for half my life at this point. I started Best Max at age 24. And so my day-to-day is a little bit off right now because we're shorthanded. So my day-to-day lately has been about hiring and interviewing and also filling in the gaps on the fact that we're down a staff member.
Yeah.
All the stuff that I really wanted to do this year, like sales, marketing, retention efforts, all that just had to take a back seat for a little bit, which was not what I wanted at the beginning of the year. But when you run a business, you've got to be nimble. You've got to go where the need is and do what needs doing, because it's all about, delivering excellent customer service, quality product to your clients, and then going and finding more of them. And really, I mean, those two functions are what you're trying to get done day in, day out. So, and I'm in technology, so every day is a surprise. There's always some ticket that comes in as like, what is that? So, yeah.
So even though you've been doing this for 25 years, you're still learning, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things you figure out when you start getting into technology is there's no end to the depth. I was on some tools last night. I was on Google. I'm working on a programming side project. And I'm like, how do I get this query to work with a SQL database? And I'm researching it. I'm like, do I really want to let ChatGPT take a whack at this? And I did. It came back. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. And popped it anyway. Yeah, there's always something to learn. And frankly, if you don't love it, I think you could say this about every career, but especially IT. You hear these radio ads around here anyway, of go to school and get your cybersecurity degree in 8 weeks or less and start a new career in IT. And I'm like, yeah, but if you don't love it while you're taking that class, you are going to burn out hard because you're going to drive yourself nuts with this stuff. It's going to be bad.
So how have you kept your passion going all this time?
It started as a hobby. I mean, I turned my hobby into a career is what it boils down to. And in junior high, again, I already told you my age, so I'm not dating myself here, but like there weren't a lot of computers in school. And so when you saw one, I just like moth to a flame, just like, ooh, I want to mess with that. It got to the point where in later grades, junior, senior year, I was getting called out of English class to go fix the computer down in the computer lab. And I'm like, I've never lost that. It's always been, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times where I'm just like, oh, why doesn't this thing just freaking work like everybody? But no, there's still part of me that just really enjoys it, really enjoys working on it, almost to my detriment as a business owner sometimes, because that's my siren song. I started as soloist going out there working on the machines. Now transitioning into somebody who manages the team that does that and tries to grow the business, it's very easy for me to get sucked back into, well, I can help out with that help desk ticket. Oh, I can work on that project. It's like, no, dude, no. You're going to be cold calling today.
Do you find it difficult? I mean, you've been doing this for 25 years, so you've definitely like had a long journey and you've seen a lot of things over building your business, but do you have a hard time balancing what you're passionate about and what you want to do versus what you know you need to do? Or have you
Absolutely.
become passionate about the other stuff?
No, absolutely. There's definitely stuff. I read a great book the other day. I don't know if I can say it. In the book, they talked about doing a time audit. And basically for 2 weeks, write down everything that you're doing and then assign two values to that. One is, does this make money for your organization? And the other value is, do you enjoy it or not? And it was pretty evenly split. It was about a quarter of it was green. Yep, this makes money. I love doing it. This is where I should be spending my time. And then there was a quarter of it that was red, and most of the red was low value stuff that I procrastinate on, that I just put aside, that I save for later, but I know I got to do it. I beat myself up until I get it done. I'm trying to make sure I hire or delegate all of those things at this point, so I don't have to do the stuff that I don't like. I think that's really the trick. And if I could go back and do it over again, my first hire would not have been a tech that does what I do. It would have been an office manager or an administrative assistant. But live and learn.
Yeah. Well, let's go back. If I think it would make sense, just given the flow of the conversation, if you walk through how you got your business started and off the ground and why you made the decisions that you did. Then
Okay. It didn't take me long to figure it out. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. So going way back, my dad worked for a state government for his entire adult life until he retired. And the whole time growing up, that's what I heard. It was, get a good job with the state or the federal government, and you'll get health insurance and you'll get retirement and you'll be all set. I tried it for a year and I hated it. I absolutely hated it.
What job did you get? What did you do for this year?
I was doing IT in school districts. And that was my last job before I started my business.
That's great. You trusted yourself.
Yeah, oh, absolutely hated it. It was all the politics and the bureaucracy and the game playing and so many horror stories I could tell you from that. And obviously that wasn't my first job. I had had lots of menial jobs from there, but I had experienced enough menial job boss holes, for lack of a better phrase, to know what I didn't like out of that. And again, horror stories there if you want to dive in. But ultimately that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But I've been thinking about it prior to that year. I'd been thinking about it for a long time. In fact, I dug this out for you because I knew we were doing this today. I bought this in 1996. Yeah, 1996. I bought this guy. You can actually see the coffee stains on the bottom of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that got me going. Apparently still a complete idiot. But yeah, it was wild to dig that guy out of storage and find it again.
I love that.
Yeah. But
Did you find any other cool stuff?
No, yeah, lots, but none I'm putting up on the screen. But yeah, that was it. I kind of had that inkling kind of early on, just had enough boss holes, tried it my dad's way, knew I didn't like it. And ultimately it was just like, you know what? I'm going to make the leap. And we're going to see how it goes.
What were the menial jobs you had, just out of curiosity?
I worked as a busboy. That was my very first job. I did McDonald's. I did Wendy's. I did a local pizza joint. The pizza joint was brutal. That actually only lasted 3 days. It was a family-owned restaurant, and the owner's grandson was a manager at the business. He was younger than me, and he liked to lord it over all of his employees. I was not having it. I asked him for a simple thing for help, and he's like, shut up, don't talk back. I'm like, okay, I'm out. And I just walked out.
Goodness.
I'm like, I'm done. You don't treat people like this. No.
Yeah.
It's fun when I go back and get pizza.
Is he still there?
They're still there. Yeah, they still own it.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
I don't think they know who I am. So, but it's pretty funny. After the pizza joint, that's when I kind of broke into computers. And my second computer job was actually one that I really loved. It was the first one where I got to work with Apple gear, which was kind of my thing. And again, small business, founder, owner led, the two owners, they were great, just great guys. And I only left them to try that 1 year on my dad's deal, and then the rest is history.
Okay. So you had this little computer gig before you did the school system.
Yep.
Was the school system where your dad worked as well?
No. He worked. It was
just
not,
his.
Just a government
advice.
job, a government deal, but no, it wasn't. We weren't working together or anything like that.
You're just trying to follow in his footsteps or follow his advice.
Yeah, just okay. Well, this works for you guys, and you've made a decent living at it. Let's give it a try. And no,
Yeah.
not for me.
Were you expecting it to be very different than your other jobs that you had before? And were you surprised by the way that people behaved?
That would require a level of intelligence I don't think I had at that age. I didn't really. I just kind of went into it with, well, Dad says I should do this. I didn't go in with a ton of expectations, but I found out pretty quick that it was very different than the small business that I'd been working in.
Yeah.
Prior to that, a lot of the basic functions were the same, but instead of doing things like hardware repair or software repair on a computer, I was now dealing with dozens or even hundreds of computers at a time. I was dealing with networking. It was a very different technical skill set. So on that front, I learned quite a bit, but then also it came with all the drama of a large organization that I had not experienced to that point. Because at that point, I had either reported to fast food gigs. You got a manager and you don't really think about anybody above the manager. You don't know. And then the small business that I worked at, I mean, I reported to the owners. And I didn't really think, but now all of a sudden it's like I've got this boss and this boss and this boss over here with a dashed line that you talk to that guy. And oh, this guy doesn't like the way you did this, so you can't go back there. We're going to have you go do this now. Finally, kind of did it for me was they asked us to look at our email system. And again, this was 1998, 99. And so email it wasn't that much different, but it was a little different. They were like, we don't really like our email system we're using right now. We get a lot of complaints about it. We would like you guys, so they picked me and two other people. And they said, we'd like you guys to investigate a different email system we might use and what all that entails. So me and these other two, and I came in as the Apple guy, we looked at 4 or 5 different products that were out there at that point, and we tested all of them. We actually set up test servers, did the whole 9. At the very end, we picked one. We said, this is the one. Got all pros, none of the cons. We'll like it better. It's cost effective. We should totally do this. We brought it to our boss who assigned us the task. He goes, okay, that's great, guys. Thanks. And then like a week later, crickets. A couple weeks later, we're asking him, hey, anything of that? He's like, I'll get back to you. About a month later, anything come from that report? He goes, oh, yeah, that thing. Now we're just sticking with what we got. I'm like, well, then why the hell did we do this exercise? This is totally pointless. I can't know the machinery that happened with him or above him or whatever, but that has been an experience that I have experienced since then with large organizations that I just don't see very often in small business. In small business, you go through that effort, you find something that works, you execute on it, and you're better for it. And that's what I try to drive for my clients.
I love that. That's such a great example too, because you're bringing up so many memories for me too, where I've put in that kind of effort. Because I sit in corporate for 20-ish years, many times been in projects where we're evaluating something and making recommendations, and then nothing actually comes of it. Not always, not always, but there are plenty of times like that. And it is so frustrating because if you're not intending to do something with it in the first place, why?
Yeah, why'd you waste my time
ask?
with this? Like there's months of my life I'm never getting back for no freaking reason.
So is that the thing that we were like, I don't want to do this?
Yeah, well, that was a big part of it. I mean, the other one, another horror story from that year was the entitlement. Like I'm in a school, it's like an elementary school. There's a superintendent in that school and he's throwing a fit because his computer is old. And so they buy him this well-stocked, like top of the line laptop, docking station, big monitor, priority, get over there and get it set up as fast as you can, get his data migrated over to it. Okay, great. Meanwhile, in the room across the hall, the kids are on machines that are like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And they're decrepit and they're falling apart. And what's this guy do with this massive, awesome machine? Email. Just sends email, writes Word docs. That's it. He could have used one of the 10-year-old decrepit machines and been just fine. Now, I'm not saying the money on his machine would have gotten a whole new lab for those kids, but like, come on, man. Seriously? You had to have this? You such a big shot? It pissed me off. I'm like, this is so dumb. This entitlement mentality. I'm the big wig. I should have the best of the best. No, your resources go where they make the most impact. And you don't spin my wheels on asking me to improve things and then completely ignore the improvement. And it was a little too much for me. I just couldn't deal with it.
That's impressive that you figured that out after just a year, I think.
Didn't take long. Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
that was it. And then that coincided with some stuff in my personal life, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going for this. We're gonna take a shot at this and see how it goes. And here we are, 25 plus years later, it's still going.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk me through that. How much prep time did you put into figuring out what you were going to do after, like, you're going to leave, you want to leave? What was that thought process like?
It's interesting because it wasn't like a spur of the moment thing at the end of that year. I'd actually been thinking about it for probably the latter half of that year. And obviously I'd been thinking about it for, years prior to that. It wasn't like I'm going to go do this thing like kind of out of nowhere. It was always this. I remember walking through the mall and like, what would be great in that they got a space that's open. I want to put like an internet cafe in there. Remember internet cafes? That was a thing.
Yes.
I'm like, I want to start an internet cafe. I want to do that. I want to put that in there. That'd be great. and and that's really what I was thinking when I bought that book, was something like that. I knew it was going to be technology related. I knew I wanted to run my own business. I mean, when I went to college, there was no such thing as IT. You were either a computer scientist, which meant you were a programmer, or you were a hardware engineer, which means you were building chips and building devices. And I knew I didn't want to do either of those things. I knew it was going to be technology related. I just didn't know what it was going to look like yet. And my experiences with these bad bosses and the organizations and all good experiences with like the small business that I worked for. I'm like, okay, I think I see where I fit into this at this point and what I'm going to try to do.
Okay, tell me about your college experience. I'm curious because you mentioned the two different computer paths. What did you go for?
I went for 2.5 years and dropped out. The computer science thing was the track I was going on first. And I remember vividly sitting in a computer lab one day. I have a project that's to do the next day. It's 2 a.m. and I'm trying to get this damn program to compile and it just will not go. And I'm banging my head against it. I'm pouring through all the code, trying to figure it out. And this dude walks by me and he goes, "You're missing a semicolon in line 8." I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I go up. Yep, it's pop it in, compiles, it's done. I'm like, I am not doing this the rest of my life. Nope, I'm out.
That's
And so I knew that wasn't the path. And I already knew engineering wasn't the path because they were like, "You're going to take calculus." And I'm like, "What?" And I go to the calculus class and I'm like, I don't get it. This ain't happening either. And so I just want to work on computers, man. I want to have some fun with computers. And so, yeah, those didn't happen. What's interesting, I floundered around for, the next year and a half or so because, you graduate high school, you go to college. That's what you do.
Mhm.
And finally just dropped out entirely, went and, got some jobs, was trying to break into the computer field without a degree to do something and ended up on repair. It was kind of the
Yeah.
thing that I ended up doing. But the part way into that, I had that inkling I want to run my own business. So I went to night school in a community college. Or it wasn't even a community college. It was School of Commerce, and it was a night school. And I go in, and I'm the youngest kid there by a long shot. I mean, everybody else there is an adult who's trying to change careers, do a different job, and I'm acing it. 4.0, like HR, marketing, like everything that's involved in being an actual business owner. And I was acing it because I loved it. For the first time in my entire life, I loved school. I looked forward to going. I loved doing the homework. I loved reading the books. It was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then I ran out of money and I had to leave after a year because I'd used all my student loans on the 2.5 years that sucked.
That's amazing that you had that experience, though, like a very different experience that kind of showed you that you have ability and you have things that you could love that are maybe outside of what you thought.
Yeah,
I think that's really
absolutely.
neat.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me one of my hypotheses in all of this, which is getting disproven, by the way, I'll say that already, is just that there's a specific pattern in people's lives and their upbringings and how their parents show up in the world and how they treat their kids that enables the kid, forces the kid, whatever the case may be, to go out and do their own thing. And I'm saying it's being disproven because I've talked to several people now that have very different upbringings. So tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your parents, what your parents did, all of that.
I think I had a somewhat typical Gen X experience. My mom worked, for the first 13 years of my life. Then my little brother came into the world and then she stayed at home. But by that time, I mean, I got in trouble once because our house was within walking distance of the school. and I forget what it was. There was some sort of permission slip or something that I had to have, and they said it was due today, and I didn't have it. So I convinced the school bus driver not to take me to my grandparents' house for babysitting after school, but instead I just said I'm not going, and I walked home. And the school called. My grandparents were like, he wasn't on the bus. Where the hell is is this kid? I got home and I found the key where my mom hid the key, and I got in and I found the permission slip and I made myself some dinner. I think it was just maybe from get-go, I was just independent and I'm going to do my own thing and maybe be a little unconventional about it.
How old were you at that point?
That was 8 or 9.
Oh my God. My kid is turning 8. I can't even imagine him having that. Like, I'm just going to go home and I'm going to do the thing I want to do.
Yeah. I don't know if my kids would either. My middle child, who's a lot like me, I could see him doing it. He's 12 now, but he hasn't quite. But when he was little, he used to do stuff like, we'd be like, what is he doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm getting my just desserts now. Sorry, Mom.
So what did your mom do for work before your brother came?
She was in engineering. Yeah, she was in plastics engineering. You got to figure, a woman in engineering in the 70s and 80s. Eek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine why she'd want to leave.
That's interesting. So both of your parents, did they both have college degrees?
My mother did, my dad did not.
What kind of expectations did they have for you?
I don't know. I don't know that I don't remember them communicating expectations to me around that sort of stuff. It was always kind of like I said about college, like, you graduate high school. What do you do next? You go to college. It's what you do. And that was just, and beyond that, and that it was, what am I going to do for a job? They confided in me maybe about 10 years in after I started the business that they didn't think it was going to work. They thought there's no way this isn't going to work. They didn't say that to me at the time. They never discouraged it, but inside they were just like, this is stupid. It's not going to work. And they were surprised. They were surprised that I actually pulled it off.
Ah. Did they say any more about why?
No, didn't really get too deep into that.
Just that was their feeling?
Didn't get too deep into that.
Were you like ever in sports or anything else growing up, or
no? I'm a terrible.
Like, what were your
athlete.
hobbies?
I'm a computer nerd, Vanessa. I'm like,
I get it.
It's funny. I'm a giant Chiefs fan, like massive Chiefs fan, and so I had a chance to go do this thing they put on for charity called Fantasy Camp, and basically it's you get to be a Chiefs player for a day.
Oh, cool.
And so I, got to be on the field at Arrowhead and work out with some former players, and I kicked a 30-yard field goal. That was pretty cool. But they've got this photo of me. There was a photographer going around taking pictures of everybody. They got this photo of me, and I'm going out to catch a pass. And the picture of me, I'm like this, and I'm looking for the ball. I'm looking over here. The problem is the ball's here, and I'm looking here. I can't catch for crap. It's so embarrassing. It's so bad. I was so embarrassing that day. So no, I mean, I love sports. I do enjoy watching, but I'm not an athlete by any stretch. So no, none of that. Yeah, it was a computer thing. They got me a computer at a garage sale when I was a kid, and it was old at the time. Even it was old, and I, figured it out. Plugged it in, started working on it, writing programs for it. And this was in the days where it's like, load program, press play on tape. Okay. And the little cassette tape goes around. You wait 20 minutes for the program to load. Now the program's ready. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's cool. How old were you when you got that computer? Do you remember?
10 or 11, something like that. And then a couple of years later, I saw my first Mac, and it was like, what? Point and click with a mouse? Are you kidding? How does this even work? How do you load programs? You double click them. What? It was mind boggling. And I fell in love, and here I am all these years later, and I'm still doing it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that story. You're the first person I've talked to that is a computer nerd. I'll just use your own phrasing. And
Sure.
I love it so much because there's so much that I relate to in your story, because I also got super into computers and programming when I was like in high school, I guess, and I was like, that's going to be my future, So, but life has its own plans.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's all good. Is there anything that you wish you had known before you left your corporate job? Is there anything that you wish you would have known or would have done differently had you known?
There's I think it's natural for anybody to kind of look back and be like, God, I wish I had done this. Like I already mentioned one, my first hire was a tech. I wish my first hire had been an administrative assistant. The stuff that I'm not great at, I wish I had hired for my weaknesses instead of hiring for the stuff that I like to do, with the thinking that more techs means more business. No, don't do your own taxes. That would have been a good one. The IRS loved me for a few years, let me tell you. So yeah, don't do that. know the value in outsourcing.
You know that moment when you realize that you can't keep living the way that you've been living? You've probably heard several of my guests talk about that already. If that resonates with you and you're feeling like you're in that moment, you're in luck. I've created a 30-day program that's going to help you become unstuck, reconnect with your joy, reconnect with yourself, and reconnect with your values. We're going to work together to figure out your next step, your vision, and your path forward. This is an invitation for you to live the life of your dreams that truly lights you up. Visit 101waysout.com to get started.
My accountants know I love them. So, there's that. There's a bunch of little things. At one point in my career, I opened a storefront and we did sales and service, and that lasted 4 years and it was miserable.
Why?
It's funny because that was the small business I worked in that I really liked. They did that. And so I'm like, well, I want to do that. I want to build that too. And it didn't go very well because it was an interesting dichotomy. Sales of Apple computers, and this was in the late aughts, right? 05 to 09. Your margin on those is maybe 8%, 10%. If you're lucky, if you attach enough extra stuff to it, which, it was always encouraged, attach this, sell a laptop, sell a bag. I'm like, well, I don't need a bag. It's so, maybe I'm not the world's greatest salesperson on that. But I mean, I get where the impetus comes from, both from the benefit to the customer and the benefit to the business, but it was a push. You need to sell these things. And I didn't necessarily believe in these things. So I wasn't really great at selling them. And the other problem was I opened it in Lawrence, Kansas, which, if you know, Lawrence is a college town. KU is there. And KU has this great bookstore where, guess what they sell? They sell Apple computers, but they sell them at education pricing, which I can't match. So
wow.
I remember getting called in on a Saturday by my tech who was there and said, this couple is here. They're really interested in buying a whole new computer setup. I'm like, all right. So I drive in. Wasn't supposed to be there that day. I spend like 2 hours with them just answering every little question they've got about this machine, what they should get, what the specs should be, what it can do for them, da 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 da. I get down, I write up the invoice, I hand them the invoice, say, here you go, what do you think? They're like, hey, can you do education pricing? I go, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Apple doesn't let me do that. Oh, well, sorry, man, we're going to go up and get it up on the hill, up at campus.
Oh my gosh.
Kill me.
Yeah.
That was kind of the death knell for that. But the service side, on the other hand, was equally low margin, but the volume was super high. The volume was massive. And that's where I learned the lesson that sometimes not enough business is better than too much business.
Oh, yeah?
Because too much business will kill you. It will drown you. And what happens is you just have so much to do and you're so backlogged that customers are getting pissed. That it's, why have you had my computer for 2 weeks and you haven't even touched it yet? Like that sort of thing. And that was so common. And the margins were low enough, especially on warranty repairs. I mean, in warranty repairs, Apple will give you a repair that takes 3 hours to do and then maybe pay you $80.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think that's a slam on Apple. I think the entire industry is like that. And, it may have gotten better. I've been out of it for a while now, but that was just like untenable. Out of warranty, I could charge, $300 for that repair. But then it becomes I'll just get a new computer. Oh, and now we're back to the sales conversation. I'm back to making $300 or, less than $300 for that.
Yeah.
For that machine.
Oh my gosh.
It was tough. It was a tough nut. And the really important thing is you pay attention to the 80-20 rule, right? And 80% of my business, the revenue I was getting, was from my small business clients where I was doing full management of their IT. They outsourced their entire IT to me and my team. And so 80% of my revenue for that 20% of my clientele versus 80% of my headaches for like 20% of our revenue. I went all in, pivoted hard, went all in on this what we call managed services concept and haven't looked back. That's been 15 years ago now.
Oh, I was going to ask you the timeline. So you spent 10 years on trying to do both the sales and the service, or how did that kind of go?
That was 05. The first 4 years of the business, well, from late 99, it was like November. I can never remember if it's October or November. It was like Q4 99 till 2005. I was just a hired gun. I was just I went out, put on a nice looking shirt, went out to places that I thought would have Macs, and asked if I could help them with anything. Some people just said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I got an issue right now. Can you take a look at it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And write them an invoice at the end. They pay it, give me a check, and we're good. But there wasn't enough of that to sustain me as a business owner at that point to pay all my bills. So I went out on the road. I found a contract with a group that did troubleshooting training. So I would go to a hotel for 2 days or 3 days and train people who came to this seminar on how to fix a computer. And I did that 26 weeks out of the year. And that's what really
Wow.
sustained my income well. I was able to grow a client base. And then finally by 2005, I had enough of a client base, signed one really major client that I love. I'm still with them. Finally got me over the hump where I didn't need to travel anymore. And at that point, that's when I got the wild hair. I should open a store. Idiot. That was so
Well, we
dumb.
learn. We learn.
Yeah,
We
you
try
live
things
and
and we
learn, right?
learn.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. But there you go. Yeah. So that's the early days, the phase one of the okay. I'm trying to build this. Well, I'm on the road half the year. Then the
Yeah.
store years, and then finally the pivot to what BestMax is today in managed services. And that
I
is
want to
not
go
without its
back.
bumps too. So
I want to ask you, I have like 3 questions for you. So let me ask you
sure.
specifically, you said you put on a nice shirt, you went into where you thought Macs were and you asked people if they needed help. Like, did you literally go to storefronts or what did you do? Like, where did you
Yeah.
go?
So Apple's verticals tend to be my verticals as well, obviously. So where are Macs most prevalent? Creatives, ad agencies,
Mhm.
marketing, video production, that sort of thing. That tends to be their really strong suit. Going all the way back to the early '80s or mid '80s, that has been their bread and butter. And then you get into education. I already told you I'm not doing that anymore, and I have done it a couple times since, and I've regretted it every time. And then professionals. Well, in later years, iPod became a thing, and iPad and iPhone became a thing. We'd see professionals. We'd see lawyers, doctors that got a Mac at home, they loved it, or got an iPad at home and loved it. And so I'm going to run my whole business on this. That tends to be a good spot for us. But early in those early days, it was the very first client I ever went to was in a little refurbished church in Lawrence. Put it on LinkedIn the other day. I was there and I took a picture of it. They were down in the basement. I just went down to the reception desk and saw all the Macs sitting there on their desks. And I was like, "Hi, I handed them this cheesy little business card I drew myself. 24-year-old kid. Here's a business card. And I fix these. Do you need any help with them?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I need one right now. Can you come back here?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And fixed it,
Oh,
and they called me
amazing.
back a bunch of times before they closed down and left, but, by then I had I went into a print shop, and the guy there at the print shop, like, I told him what I did, and he goes, "Oh, is it your lucky day?" And he referred me to, like, 4 or 5 people.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
so
that totally worked out.
yeah, it worked out. Yeah, a little bit of serendipity there, I think, to some degree, but I think it's just maybe young me had it right, just go out and ask people if they need a hand with something. And if you're going at it from a genuine, I wanna help, I wanna make things better. Yeah, I wanna make a living, but I'm here to help you improve, then yeah, I think that resonates.
That's fantastic. Okay, then how did you end up getting that bigger client that allowed you to stop traveling? Where did that client come from?
I'd worked for enough people that they knew. So when their IT guy quit, I don't remember why he quit or what led to that, but he put in his notice, they started shopping, and they decided they were gonna take a shot at outsourcing. And I got a meeting as a result of them looking for outsourcing, and I must have impressed them. So, and it's funny, one of the people that was involved in that meeting, Sarah, I just talked with her last week. I mean, we're still in contact, and I'm still supporting their business today. So,
Oh my God, that's so great.
yeah, it's cool.
So word of mouth, good reputation.
Yeah, I think so. That was the crux of it and so you talk about what would you do over again? One of the things I probably
Yeah.
would have done over again is done a better job of marketing. My marketing was that. I went out and did word of mouth and referrals. And it wasn't
Mhm.
referrals weren't even necessarily a referral program. It was just, hey, people knew me well enough and they said, "Hey, yeah, you got to call this guy."
That's
And
great.
it's fantastic, but it definitely has a cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've changed things a bit. You mentioned like you kind of transitioned your focus area, you're doing things differently now. What has been that big shift for you?
The shift happened in 2008 when my first son was born.
Uh,
And obviously, having a child changes your perspective about just about everything in your world, but ours was a little bit different in that our son was born 9 weeks early. 31 weeks out of 40 weeks, you're kinda like, "Well, gee, that's early." Well, it's scary if you think of this thing where you go to the hospital, you have the baby, you hold the baby for a little while, you come home with the baby.
yeah.
Our baby sat in the hospital for 6.5 weeks, hooked up to tubes and hooked up to monitors. And that was scary. And all of a sudden I went from 80 hours a week and loving it, workaholic entrepreneur, to 10 hours a week, maybe talking to my employees, and every other waking moment spent in that hospital for almost 2 months. So credit to the employees that I had at the time for kind of keeping the ship afloat. We still had the store at that point, but it became very obvious to me that I cannot make a business succeed if it is completely dependent on me and my time. And so that was probably the big shift. And that's ultimately why the store closed. That's why we pivoted into this managed services concept where I'm not being paid by my time, the hours I spend. I'm being paid by the value that I'm bringing to the business. And so that was the big shift. He's fine now. He's 17. He's actually on the payroll and he drives me all over the place. He's my chauffeur. I love it. So yeah, everything turned out fine. But that was the big impetus. It's like, how can I do this if I can only work 10 hours a week? And I could pull that off today if I needed to. If I needed to take a few weeks and get away, I absolutely could. My team could totally run the business without me. It wouldn't grow, which is what I'm trying to fix now. But my clients would absolutely be fine and they'd be taken care of and we'd, the things would be moving. So
That's fantastic.
yeah.
So you're also not tethered to you're in Kansas City. Are you in Lawrence? Where are you?
I mean, I'm in the Northland these days. That's where I live now.
Northland. Okay. North Kansas City, AKA the Northland to those of us that live in Kansas City.
Yeah. Sorry. National audience.
Yeah, you're good.
North of the river. If you look at a map, there's a river. I'm above the river.
I'll have to include that in the blog post and podcast notes.
Yeah.
I know you're not tethered to a location, and I know that you travel quite a bit with your family.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what's that like?
No, that's my wife's fault. She has wanderlust. We're already like, are
I
you
like
going
her.
anywhere in a few months? We got to get in the car. All right, let's get in the RV. Let's fire it up. We got to go. Yeah, no, she's always jonesing to get out of here. But yeah, that was part of, we were doing work from anywhere before it was cool. So, when the pandemic hit, I had the great majority of my clients just packed up their laptops and went home because we had already set them up on mobile. We had already set them up on laptops. We had already set up VPNs. We had already set it so that their office was not a point of failure. So even, before the pandemic happened, we would have a client, their internet went down. Oh, internet's down. Call the ISP. Oh, we're going to be about 4 hours. Well, how's anybody going to work? Pack up your laptops, go home. Okay. They copy down the files they need. They go home. They get their stuff done. They deal with it the next day when they come back. The internet's back up. Okay. Well, now there's a disease. It's going to kill everybody. Go home. All right. Pack up laptops, go home. Same thing. So it wasn't a big deal. But we still had some clients that called me in a panic, like, I just bought 20 laptops. Can you set them up tomorrow? Like, dude, this is proactive versus reactive. Okay. Can we not do this? Maybe next time, if you want to remain a client, could you get on board with these recommendations ahead of time, please? Yeah, the work from anywhere thing has always been, because I closed the store. And when I closed the store, my biggest client, the one I mentioned from '05, they were like, we would really love it if you were in the office more. Could we just set aside a cubicle for you and your guys? And so I'm like, it was like a de facto office for me. It would have cost us nothing. And frankly,
nice.
if they hadn't done that, I would have just been like, screw it, I'm not buying another office. It's an expense that doesn't generate any revenue for me. So in my mind, that's just a liability. It needs to go away. But no, that was cool. It was a cool deal. And obviously then we've been working from home ever since. Sometimes I have an employee who just can't do that and we'll buy them like a desk at WeWork or a co-working space or PlexPod here in KC, something like that. But generally speaking, my team is just like, whatever. They like working from home.
How many team members do you have?
Right now we are at 5 and I'm working to re-add the 6th.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How often do you and your family spend on the road?
Not as much as we'd like. Last year we took 3 road trips. We were gone. The first trip was about almost 3 weeks. And then I got injured, hurt my knee.
Oh no.
And we ended up coming home. Then we took a shorter one for just like an extended weekend, like 5 days. And then we took a long one again. We went out to the East Coast this time, up Northeast. And that one was about 2.5, 3 weeks as well.
Do you work while you're traveling or is that just time off?
No, I'm never not working. It's a great commercial with Patrick Mahomes in it. I'm never not working. Maybe not as much. I'm not going to sit at a desk and spend hours banging away on something. But, it's my turn, my wife's turn to drive. What am I doing? Well, if the kids are on their iPads, I'm just gonna get my laptop out and answer emails. And I was having prospect calls. I was getting on calls with new prospects to sales meetings from the RV. The family's off doing something. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have this prospect call and I'm going to catch up with them when I'm done with it. Stuff like that.
Nice.
So we make it work.
That's good. What is your ultimate vision for what you want your life to look like?
We're pretty close right now. I'm at the age now, and then my kids are at the age now where I'm starting to realize that at some point I'm going to exit this business. And I've sold a business already and I didn't like it. That's a whole nother story we can dive deep into if you want, but spin-off business that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
I know at this point that if the exit happens, it's going to be because something happened. I'm either going to pass, I'm going to become too ill to do anything, or my kids are going to take it over. And that's the vision that I want. So when you think about your why are you doing this? I want my 3 guys to have right of first refusal. I don't know if any of them will do it at this point. They all kind of show signs of it, but they also talk about other things they want to do. Like my youngest is talking about being a baker. I'm like, well, okay, I'm gonna bake anything on the computer. Hopefully not. But then my oldest, as a dad, you want to get your kids to like the things you like, right? So I took my kids. All my kids have been to Arrowhead, and they're all kind of like, they kind of show a little sign. My oldest, at one point, a few years in, finally decided he's just like, Dad, I don't really like football. I'm like, that's okay. That's why you have little brothers. And he doesn't like that. And I'm trying to like, okay, so what about sci-fi? You like Star Trek? You like Star Wars? No, don't like any of that. How about fantasy type, Lord of the Rings type stuff, D&D type stuff? No, don't like any of that. Well, crap, I have failed this kid as a father. Like, what is this kid into? And one day I'm sitting down, I'm watching Shark Tank on TV, and he sits down next to me. He just comes in and sits down, and he goes, why didn't that guy get a deal? What's this valuation thing they're talking about? So he gets 10% of the business for that money? What does that mean? I'm like, yes.
Oh.
Yes, son, yes. Let's go. So yeah, so he has shown signs that he gets the and he'll say to me, he's like, Dad, I don't really like computer. I'm not going to fix computer. I'm like, son, that's only like half of what I do. Like in the course of a day, I might not touch a dang computer. I'm working on marketing plan or doing sales work or talking to clients or, managing that or even looking at financials or stuff like that. And so he's starting to grok that. He's starting to understand that okay, this computer business is still a business and there's that aspect to it. So we'll see. But if my youngest is 10, if 15 years from now he gets 25 and none of them have shown any interest in it whatsoever by their mid-20s, maybe I'll sell it or maybe I won't.
Yeah.
We'll see. Because again, I've done that before.
That's a great timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're enjoying it. You're enjoying it now. You have a plan. Hopefully the kids take an interest. If not, then you'll figure out your exit.
If it keeps going the way it's going right now, and the fact that it can run without me for an extended period of time and has shown that it can do that prior to now, then why the hell would I sell it? It's a pipeline. I mean, it pays for everything. So why would I walk away from that? Why would I need to exit? So again, the exit would just be, hey, I'm too old to do this now. Hey, kids, do you want it? Or, something happens and I have to for whatever reason. And we've got contingencies in play for that too. So
how has your income changed? Obviously, you've been doing this for a long time. Some people I talk to, they're like in the first year, 2 years, 3 years of their business, that you've clearly established your business. So the normal question I ask is, how has your income changed from before you left the corporate gig to now? Clearly slightly different for you because you've been through so much as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So just talk about kind of how you've grown your business and where it's at and where you want it to be.
Again, early days, I already mentioned it was just, I had no income. It was just, I'm bootstrapping. And my parents weren't poor, but, it was a very tight budget all the time. So it's not something where I could go to them and say, hey, could you give me $50,000 to get started? No, there was none of that. There was no bailout. So I either got to make this go or I got to go get a job. There's that aspect of it. There were times where I was putting payroll on credit cards, right? And so that was part of the impetus too. When my kid was born, I realized the whole time factor was also the recurring revenue factor. And the fact that prior to that, I was billing time and materials. And time and materials is great, but the problem is it's kind of like this. It's feast or famine. It's up and down. I call it the sine wave of revenue. It's just, and you can work on edging out those valleys. Obviously, your goal would be then, don't let the highs get too high, don't get the lows too low. I couldn't process that. So when we went to this managed services concept, it was flat fee, and it still is. It's flat fee per, however metric we want to do it. Now we're doing it in a combination of users and devices that we call endpoints. But the bottom line is it's predictable, and that's a win-win for me and my clients. It's easy for them to budget. They are not going to get surprised because something bad happened and a big, oop, that wasn't on the budget. There's, a couple $1,000s I didn't account for this month. None of that. And so that means I am more profitable when their stuff just works.
Yeah.
And so that's in their interest. Their interest, my interests are aligned. I don't want their stuff to break because I do better when it works. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it stays working and be proactive about that. And that means I'll be more profitable as a result. So that changed everything because all of a sudden now I went from this to this.
Yeah.
And this line just started to grow. The more clients I signed, the more, if I'm doing things right, this grows. And eventually this line exceeds your expenses. And so all of a sudden your monthly recurring revenue is paying all your bills. And just like your bills are going to hit and you got to pay them or bad things happen, well, now my revenue is the same way. It's practically guaranteed. I mean, obviously there's churn and clients go out of business and you fire, whatever. But if you got a healthy client relationship and you're doing a good job for them and they're happy with it, that check is going to come. And just like your bills are going to get paid. So all of a sudden now it's like, wow, all the bills are paid and I don't have to stress about, oh God, am I going to get enough business this month to make ends meet? I didn't save enough from last month. No, it's steady. It's predictable. So I'm a big fan of that. And I see why every company under the sun is changing to subscription models. I totally get it. I don't necessarily like it, but I totally get it because I did the same thing. So that was a game changer for me in a big way. And then, things went on from there, and we had I sold that one business. That was a big level up type event.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that one. Tell me a little bit about your business and then why you sold it and why was it a leveling up experience for you?
2010, we went to this managed services concept, and part of the challenge on that is that in order to make it really work, you need to have a certain level of automation. And at the time, again, as an Apple guy, I didn't have a lot of tools comparatively to my Windows counterparts. And so I ended up writing a tool to automate maintenance on a Mac. And I ran that as what I was going to use because the enterprise tool that kind of did the same thing, and it's the big dog, it's the most popular name in Apple management. They wanted something like 5 figures from me to support my entire fleet. And the sad part is that for 5 figures, I was only getting 80% of what I wanted. It was still going to require a lot of labor on my part to get their tool to do what I needed. And I'm like, screw this. I'm just going to write my own and I'm going to go with it. I'm going to homebrew it. So I did. And then, as I was doing that, I discovered some open source tools that helped out with that. I'm still using one of them today, or a couple of them today. And anyway, built this recipe for that with some custom scripting and all that. And so I'd go to conventions or I'd go to meetings with my colleagues and be like, what are you running? I'm running this. I'm running this. I'm running this. Oh, I'm running this thing. What's it do? And I show them how it works. They're like, take my money. like, will you sell that to me? And so I spun it off into its own business. I started a SaaS, a software as a service company just for that software in 2014. And that business was doubling every 3 months until about 18 months in, one of the largest makers of Windows IT service management software, the CEO of it called me and basically made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He said, our Apple product stinks. We want you to come help us deal with ours and we'll buy yours and we'll go from there. And so, yeah, it was a killer deal. It was a total financial reset for me.
That's amazing.
It's nuts. It was a really cool deal. What kind of sucked about it is that the Apple space is kind of a weird deal in IT. And so what I was trying to make sure didn't happen, I vetted them as hard as they vetted me during due diligence. And what I was vetting them for was, are you going to buy this and put it on a shelf? Or are you going to actively develop it? Do your customers want it? And so they were cool enough to actually let me attend one of their customer events. And I got to see their customers get excited about, well, later this year, we're going to add patching for Mac. Yay! And then we got this Windows feature. We got this thing. And then we're going to do remote control for Mac. Yay! Their audience goes nuts. I'm like, okay, they get it. This could be a real deal. And they're telling me about the dev team they're going to assign to it. We're talking about marketing plans. And I'm like, this is great. This is going to be a great thing. So on top of what's in it for me, it's like, okay, this thing is, they're not going to just kill this or shelve it. We're really going to do something with it. That's fantastic. And 9 months later, they got bought. And the company that
Oh,
bought them fired my employee who came with me because why do we need 2 Mac guys? And they basically just shelved the product. They
no.
did.
Could
And
you could you relaunch it if you wanted to?
Well, so here's the thing. I could absolutely have walked at any time. But the
Yeah.
problem was at that point, Bestmax was self-sustaining and I was paying myself from the other business. So I traded that business and its revenue for a W-2 from this company.
Yeah.
So if I quit, I lose that W-2 income. I need to go get my income back from Bestmax now, which means I need to fire all my employees and become a soloist again. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I am not going to do that. These people have been loyal to me. They have done great work. They're great people. I am not going to screw them over just because I'm having a bad day. And so I just put up with it. I just worked it from the inside and kind of got buy-in from leadership, but it was kind of like my earlier experiences with large business. It was kind of like half-assed,
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going
Yeah.
to give you 10 devs to work on this thing. And, oh, we hired 5. Now we're going to take the other 5 and put them on something else. Sorry. Hey, why is this out
Yep.
yet?
Yep.
It's because we don't have any resourcing behind it. Well, why aren't we selling more? Because the product is crap.
Yeah. That
Uh,
sounds all accurate.
Yeah, and it's so there was a lot of that, and finally that relationship ended. But the writing had been on the wall for a couple of years before that relationship ended, and so 2019. So I was out of the business primarily from 2016, well, really like 2015 till 2019. I wasn't doing Bestmax. I was keeping an eye on it, but I was not actively in the business at all. And my employees at the time were doing it. And I owe one of them an apology. I'm like, why aren't you growing this business? And I'm like, yeah, I get it now, dude. That was hard. That's totally not
Mm.
fair to you. So 2019, I closed a deal. First deal I've closed in like 6 years at that point with a new client. I'm like, this is great. I need more of this. I need this business to grow so that it can pay me a salary and I can leave this thing. Or if they decide they're sick of me, they're going to can me and I won't have to hurt any of my people to come back. And so
Mm.
I'm like, how did I do this in 99, 2000, 2001? Well, I just went out and started asking people. So February of 2020, I went to one networking event at a Tanner's in Overland Park, and it was it was a whole bunch of, I'm a real estate agent. Here's what I do. I'm a insurance agent. Here's what I do. I sell herbal supplements. Here's what I do. I'm an IT guy. Here's what I do. It was kind of a dumb meeting. And of course, you know what happened next. February of 2020. I didn't go to any
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
meetings.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. The good news is I met a mentor there, a guy we both know who introduced
Ah.
us. And he's like, this sucks. This is not how you start a business. And his whole deal is turn around technology companies is what he's done his whole life and improve businesses. He's like, I want to teach people how to really do this. Are you in? And I'm like, I am so in. Let's go. And that guy has been kicking my butt every day, every week for 5 years now about how to grow a business. Well, it worked because when they finally fired me in 2023, in summer 23, Bestmax was already making enough revenue to pay my salary extra. And so I'm like, I started laughing when they fired me. I'm like, why couldn't you guys waited 6 months? I want to buy an RV, for crying out loud.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a good deal. And we doubled in 23. We had double-digit growth in 24, and we're on track to do it again this year. Yeah, it's exciting. And so it's the first time. So if I had it to do over again, all the things that he taught me over the course of the last 5 years, those are the things I would have been doing in the aughts. I would not have opened the store. I would have been doing this. But, you go on a journey for a reason. I wouldn't have understood these lessons back in the aughts. I mean, I read
That's some
about
of our
them.
journey.
I read about marketing a bunch of times, but it just didn't really click. Now, the journey of the last 5 years or so, I totally get it now.
See, if you had advice for someone that was wanting to do something similar to what you're doing, start a business in the computer space, what would you tell them? That they want to go out on their own. They want to leave with their corporate grind.
It's not just the computers. That's the trick. I think that's the trick for anybody who is a talented professional, not to toot my own horn, somebody who's good at a particular thing and wants to turn it into a business. I think where a lot of them fail is not realizing that your talent alone is not enough. You've got to do all the extra stuff that makes any business go. Sales, marketing, retention, finances, HR, all that stuff, all the stuff that makes a business go. You've got to at least know it well enough to know whether you can hire somebody to do a good job for you or not. So
Yeah, that makes
especially if
sense.
you're a bootstrapper and you're just going to go out on your own with your own money, you're going to have to DIY some of that for a while. My typical clientele, I meet them when they get to about the 20 seat mark. They've been DIYing their computers and their tech until they get to about that size. And then they realize, oh crap, this is getting a little cumbersome. And a lot of them at that point aren't hiring a full-time IT guy. Hi, nice to meet you. Somebody who's really talented at what they're doing. Yeah, you can do that and you can do it as a soloist. But again, you are probably going to want to hire an accountant. Please hire an accountant.
Yeah.
Trust me. Hire a lawyer. You spend money on that. You're going to have to, because those are things you're not going to want to DIY. But there are certain things like sales marketing that you can DIY to a certain point. You can DIY IT to a certain point. Can't really DIY cybersecurity real well. That's a conversation I'm having with folks lately. Bear in mind that your talent alone is probably not going to be enough to sustain you as a business. That's a tough road,
Yeah.
especially when you get bigger. And now you don't get to do the talent as much as you might want to because you're doing a lot of the other stuff. So that's a thing. It's a hard
No,
deal. Some people I know lots of people who are really good solopreneurs and they've figured out all those extra components and they're doing enough of them themselves that they have made a great lifestyle business for themselves and they're doing fantastic. So it's definitely doable. You don't have to grow it to the way I did where it's like, I've got 6 employees and I've got lots of customers, marketing campaigns, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to do that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's super helpful advice. If you had to pick between happiness and success, which would you pick? And has your answer changed over time?
A lot of my happiness is derived from success. So I can't really pick one. To me, they are synonymous in a lot of ways, but I'm also a family guy, right? So yeah, a lot of my happiness is derived from my kids and my wife. So happiness. Yeah, if I got to choose one, there you go. That's my existence. It's like family, work, and maybe football in the off season on Sundays. And that's about it. I mean, I'm a real simple guy that way. So yeah, half my life, or maybe in the fall, a little more than half my life is happiness. So there you go.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. What is the most liberating decision that you've been able to make since owning your own business that you don't think you could have made otherwise?
Probably the time story that I told you a little bit earlier, when my son was born, the realization, the great majority of the populace trades their time for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to figure out, not on my own, but to figure out how to break out of that equation. And in doing so, deliver a better quality service to my clients, more valuable service to my clients than I could have if I was still trading time for money. That realization and all the freedoms that came with that, I could not have the life I have today if I didn't grok that equation and figure that out and find something that works and that accomplishes that. So
Yeah.
that for sure.
That's awesome. And then this is a new question that someone just gave me that I spoke with recently. What's one thing that is saving your life right now?
Oh God. One thing that is saving my life right now. You mean gestures and everything? Staying off of social media is saving my life right now. Staying off of any of that crap is so saving my sanity at the moment. How's that?
That's a great answer.
Yeah. I'm locking in on what I can do and what I can control and how I can influence the world. And I don't need to hear everybody else's opinions about it.
Yes,
So,
that's
there you go.
excellent. Excellent. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you or anything that you want to share?
Good Lord, I've talked about myself for 75 minutes and I am spent.
You've done fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Come back to me in a year or two. I'll tell you the exact same stories because I'm that old guy now. Dad, we've already heard that one. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think we all do that.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. It makes me feel better. Nah, I think we're good. If you're happy, I'm
How
happy.
can people find you? I'm very happy. How can
Cool.
people find you?
Bestmacs.com, BEST, my last name, MACS, like Macintosh plural.com. Everything you want to know is up there. If you want to hear me blab a little more, we've got a little self-guided meeting up there where I'll tell you all about doing business with Bestmacs, what it's like from onboarding till we get to a maturity level and everything in between. You don't even have to talk to me. You can just call me and say, hey, I watched your videos. It's great. Sign me up.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Brian.
Likewise. Thank you.
This has been 101 Ways Out. I so appreciate you taking your valuable time and spending it with me. I hope something in this episode made you feel seen, understood, and inspired. If you're looking for support taking the next step in your life, visit 101waysout.com and check out our 30-day program. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on all of your favorite podcast platforms and follow our social media. Spread the word. I look forward to seeing you next week and continuing to explore what lights you up.